Hey everyone, this week some of the largest positions in my portfolio are going to be reporting earnings. So I just kind of want to go ahead and take a look at all of these, their earnings, and talk about some of my expectations for them. And yeah, maybe it'll just be a real quick video. First time I'm doing something like this, so we'll see how it goes. All right, so first up that we're going to take a look at Google. So I'm going to pull up their the what to watch for. This is like an AI summary of like what to watch for based on notes and things like that, and just what's going on with Google just in general in the press and in their previous releases. I think it sums it up pretty well. And these are the things that I'm going to be watching. So the first thing on my list I'm going to be watching is their AI efficiency improvements in their overall infrastructure. Right, like they've spent a lot of money on capex to purchase all the GPUs they need, to purchase the NVIDIA GPUs they need to be this cloud provider of this hardware that every startup and every company really wants to use, right? So I think that they are going to win out in their investment there. But I am curious to see how efficient they get with it, especially like we've seen things like, DeepSeek pop up in the news, right? For it's like efficiency and rather that is real or fake or maybe not that impressive. I'm curious to see what other large cloud providers are doing in order to make their GPUs and that processing more efficient. So that way, like ideally, they just increase their margins more and more as the demand for AI goes, and more organizations want to use and want to run models on their platform. Um, the next thing I'm really going to be focused on is really seeing if their AI advancements really make them profitable. So that's kind of like point number four down there. But we've seen a lot of talk and a lot of discussion on, oh my goodness, Google's going to lose market share due to search because of like OpenAI and them doing search. But we haven't seen that. We haven't seen any weakening of Google search. So I'm very curious to see how that comes up, to see one, if we're going to see any weakness there. And then two, I'm curious to see how we see it progress now that they're augmenting search with Gemini, which personally I've been using and I really enjoy, but I'm very curious to see what those numbers are and if they report on some numbers like that. I want to go back up to the second, and it's their overall Google Cloud growth. Like, I mean, they have just been killing it with Google Cloud. Like, they have really gotten the spending under control. They have really grown those margins, right? And they are growing year over year. So I'm really curious to see where they go from here. I mean, if you think about it, Google is third in terms of big cloud. Like, they are only behind Microsoft and Amazon, right? So yeah, I think that they have a lot of potential there, still a lot of room to grow there, and I'm excited to see where they go with that. The last thing I want to touch on when it comes to the AI related stuff specifically is the YouTube monetization, right? Like YouTube is a huge platform for them from ad revenue, from subscription revenue. And I believe that they can really take advantage of some of those AI models and things that they've built to really help make advertising more efficient on their platform. Like we saw it with Meta, like that's why Meta's earnings was just crazy because they've done so much with their ad platform, right? So like I'm hoping that Google really implements some more of that AI driven recommendation system into their advertisements to make it more profitable, more to make it more enticing to advertisers and more profitable overall. And then the last thing I want to touch on with Google specifically is Waymo. Like the numbers for Waymo are absolutely insane. Like Waymo has completed over 150,000 rides a week per week last year. Like that's across three cities. They're expanding into more cities. They're partnering with Uber to expand into one of the cities on the docket for like this next year. So I'm really excited to see where they go with this. Like I think this is impressive. They are really the only one doing autonomous driving at this scale with these kind of numbers. So I'm really excited to see where they go from there. All right, next up is FICO. So I'm going to pull up the AI generation for FICO. So there really isn't much I can say about FICO. I actually don't hold FICO in my earnings, but I really wanted to touch base on it because FICO is one of those companies that their earnings really help us just get a beat on the economy, like in general. Specifically, FICO is used for pretty much any time that consumers issue any sort of debt. So it actively lets us know how many consumers are willing to take on debt. It's willing to let us know how much money are people willing to actually like spend? Like if people are really pinching pennies, they're not going to get debt issued, right? So generally, if they have strong earnings and especially if they have strong earnings in their like scores segment, then that's a good sign for the economy just in general that is strong. I'm honestly expecting them to hit their earnings. I mean, they rarely have missed their earnings in recent history. So I think they're going to do well. Like I said, I'm not a holder of FICO right now. I think it's one of those things that I got a little bit too late to the game, but maybe one day. because I think they have a pretty solid business model. All right, next up, let's talk about Uber. So Uber is the newest company in my portfolio. Like, in fact, I actually started the position last month with about $150, and today I did add another $1,000 to the position because I am very excited about Uber's growth prospects. I mean, if we take a look at their earnings per share, we can see that they have missed a ton. I think this is mostly due to their stock-based compensation, which is really high. But I don't think it's actually the largest issue, and I believe that the company's still early on in terms of its profit story. So I think that's okay. But within the next year, I definitely want to see the stock-based comp at least flatten out a little bit, or maybe start to decrease. I think that's going to help this earnings per share boost up. And then if we look at like revenue, well, revenue they've done a lot better at hitting on revenue, but specifically they're growing it year over year, which is exactly what we want to see. You know, they've got that network effect. They're hitting their operating potential. I'm really excited to see them just generally improve. Last year, they reported on a 20% increase in their gross bookings. So I'm really excited to see where they go in this next year. Now, I'm not blind to the concerns with Uber. They do have some legitimate concerns, mainly on the autonomous vehicle side. I know they're partnering with Waymo, but it seems like that rollout might be a little bit slow. And there are others entering that space all the time. Specifically this year, Amazon is set to launch Zoox in its first city in Las Vegas. So definitely a risk, but I do think that Uber's network technology is vast. I mean, they've been growing it a lot longer than any of these companies were thinking about rideshare. And I think that that kind of is their moat right now. And I think that they have room to pivot and really grow and really establish themselves in other market segments like, you know, aiding autonomous vehicles, even if they're not leading the core development of those vehicles. On top of it, I think that they picked a wonderful partnership. Like they decided to partner with Waymo. Currently, Waymo is the largest player in the space. Like they are actively giving rides in multiple cities, and they're expecting more to launch in this year and the following years. All the other companies are either just discussing how epic their launches will be or they're just coming online. Honestly, Uber is still expanding. Like Uber is very large in a lot of the US, but they're targeting other key markets in the UK, in Australia, and in underserviced parts of the United States. So in those areas, they do have less competition. And I think overall that's going to help increase their overall bookings, and it's going to give them a bit of diversification from like, you know, their whole US concentration or their concentration in large metropolitan areas specifically. So I do think there's a good possibility that they will miss on some of their expectation. I think that is kind of going to be a given because I think that they're still trying to figure some things out. But I do believe that their revenue targets are going to be hit, and I do think that they're going to hit on their total trip count numbers this year. And last, I want to touch base on is Amazon. You know, for anybody who's been on the channel, I am still very extremely bullish on Amazon. I've been buying as much as I can over the last like 2 years. I currently have about a $4,100 position, and I'm actively adding to it as much as I can whenever I can. I'm looking at in looking at the like what to watch for. I think this actually really does sum it up pretty well. I mean, similar to Google, we do want to see that all that capex that they're spending on their AI business segment, we want to see that start to pay off, right? They've been spending a lot of money there, so I'm excited to see those return on that investment. And I do think that it's going to drastically increase their business. I mean, last year they reported about a 20% increase in their cloud revenue alone, and I think that, you know, supplying AI solutions in the cloud is just going to help them bump that number up even higher than it was last year. They're also continuing to increase their efficiency in their warehouses. So this leads to, you know, higher margins, and this leads to more throughput during their high volume periods, which also leads to more revenue because more products can be shipped. There's less of bottlenecks. So that's really impressive as they continue to work on that. They're also continuing to just expand their ad revenue generation, which has become a huge source of revenue for them ever since they decided to you know, add the ad supported tier to Prime Video. And if they, very similar to Google, if they take a note from Meta and they really start to leverage AI in their ad products, I think they can easily hit double-digit increase in their ad revenue generation for the year, like easily. And lastly, I know it's not really touch base here in this summary, but I do want to mention that they are announcing and expecting to launch Zoox in Las Vegas later this year. As you all could tell, like at this point, I'm very pro autonomous vehicle. I'm very pro companies which are actually building, testing, and putting them onto public roads for use. I don't think we're going to see any meaningful change to the revenue or anything due to this launch, but it is an exciting entry to see Amazon, you know, expanding their horizons and trying to bring in more revenue segments. I'm definitely confident that they're going to hit their earnings. Well, everyone, that's all I've got. So thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Let me know what you all think down below if you think that, maybe I'm kind of senseless about like the targets that I gave, or maybe you're investing in different companies. Let me know what you're excited for coming up in terms of the earnings season. And yeah, I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.